Welcome to Let's Talk Possibility, episode 58 on the 10th of December 2012.
Welcome everybody. Tonight we're talking about highlights of the year, things that have stood out, things that have made us laugh, things that have been important for us, and we're looking forward to sharing these things with you. Enjoy.
Great, welcome to Let's Talk Possibility. It's a Monday night, 10 December. It's festive cheer time. We've had the bottle of Spumante. Thank you to Woolworths. Oops, and phone's on silent before I forget. And this is our last episode for 2012. And really what we've got is the entire group here. We've got Pabalo, our producer. We've got Eric, Talana, Chris, and Mongezi in the show.
Hello.
And it's really just a chat about what a year we had. I think I must just start by saying Talana, right from the beginning, got us all together at the end of 2011, interviewed us, and a year later, here we are.
Here we are.
Talana is our queen.
So it's been an awesome journey so far.
And it's been awesome having you guys and just making the show possible.
So we've had some nice treats for those of you listening. We've enjoyed some yummy cheese, and then some. And I did a bit of prep for this with the guests, hosts turned guests. And it was really just to find out...
Which in itself is quite novel.
And it was really just to get an idea of what really grabbed their attention from 2012. And Chris, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah.
You've mentioned two highlights here.
I just want to remember what highlights they were.
I will tell you. It was first. First of all, getting started. So it was. I think it was specifically related to Let's Talk Possibility. So that's really it was relating to.
It's a whole new. I guess a skill. It's a whole new adventure. It's lots of new friends. I guess. But it's just really something that holds a lot of opportunity for me with I guess making an impact in the world, which is really exciting.
And then you also mentioned as part of one of your other highlights was Andrew Hofmeyer. Tell us a bit more about that show.
Well, Andy has been involved, joined a small community called Hamburg probably 10 years ago. He arrived there in a car. Hamburg is a town in the Eastern Cape, 97% unemployment, riddled with HIV and AIDS, big social problems, alcoholism, that type of thing. And between him, his sister-in-law, and a couple other people in the community, they are making massive impact on the community. And I just was totally inspired by what they're doing, to the point where they've helped this community to build pride, I think, more than anything. And within that pride, there's hope. And within hope, there's the possibility of change. To the point where this local community has developed a tapestry, which is now being used in HIV and AIDS conferences around the world. The tapestry will soon be held in the Smithsonian. And to the point where, in fact, Britain's largest landowner now has one of the Hamburg tapestries hanging in his home. And I just think that's spectacular. And for me, it really defines
awesome story.
it's amazing.
Sure.
Yeah, so anyone, it's episode 56.
56.
You mean
there's
two
episodes
to go from episode numbers.
Talana's always on the ball.
Chris, you mean there's actually someone that owns more land than the Queen?
Apparently so. I mean, you could say J.K. Rowling owning more money than the Queen, and in this particular instance, somebody owning more land than the Queen. She's probably having a bit of a identity crisis at this point, huh?
I suppose it also depends whether it's at high tide or low tide.
I guess. And with global warming, that's probably even a bigger issue.
Mo, I'm going to move over to you. You've mentioned a couple of episodes as highlights here. We've done quite a few shows together. One of mine was definitely with Stacey, but that
was very cool.
It was mostly because I got to wear pink. I mean, that's
and
I've been known amongst fetching. Thank you.
And you're not just saying that because she's tuned in and listening.
Well, she may be. If she is, she is. She's already tweeted. She's a bit upset that I haven't got the pink hat, but I can't have it all the time. You know what I'm saying?
And I was out the country that time in Zambia, and to see the photos of you guys in the studio with those hats and scarves, it's just so much fun. She can it
like a machine. Her fingers move at a pace that I know. It's just something else. But Mo, you've mentioned here Lira. Is that how I pronounce it correctly? Leary.
Yeah.
His entrepreneurial mindset. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I found it really interesting because how the whole thing started with Leary was that I was doing a bit of research about entrepreneurs who started things creatively, if you will. And creatively is such an overdone word. I was going for either creatively or innovatively, but both of them are just, yeah. Anyway, so we had this interesting chat about how he started his business, this shoe shine business, where when he started, he couldn't get a loan at a bank, and he pawned everything in his house to get started. So for me, the fact that he started this business a couple of years ago and he now employs about 45 people at some of South Africa's leading airports where they shine shoes. I found it to be a really interesting story.
Actually, I've passed those guys regularly.
Yeah.
My Converse, unfortunately, get looked at. So they're like, what the hell, man?
And they really do a great job, and they're really friendly, and it's actually a pleasure to get involved with the guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting it's also interesting how he trains up those guys, and the guys who work there themselves recommend people to be employed or to get sort of those seats as franchises, and so the last guy trains the next guy and trains the next guy and trains the next guy, and the personality sort of spreads throughout the business. Yeah, found that to be quite something.
To me, the most interesting part of that story, Mo, that you just told is him pawning everything he owns.
Yeah.
And I mean, just recently when I was doing a strat session for a client, we came across some text and a case study about, I think, one of the Viking armies that landed in lands that they conquered. And before they set out to conquer the land, the commander ordered the boats to be burned. So in other words, if you don't actually succeed, there is nothing to go back to. There is no way to turn back. The only way to go is forward and to make this a success. And it's amazing how, I mean, he just kind of instinctively, out of need, I would imagine, decided, well, I'm figuratively burning the boats.
Yes.
If this business isn't going to work, that's it. I'm out of here.
Having your wife as a captain at home to say, hey, you burned the boats is also kind of a bit of encouragement in itself.
I bet it is. But she probably also doesn't complain when he works long hours then.
No, probably not.
Talana, we've done a few shows together, and the one that you mentioned here, I think it was episode 50, the 50th LTP episode. Woohoo! It involved some lively characters. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so there was topic was everything's negotiable.
Yes.
Or we were asking, is everything negotiable? And we had Kim Meredith and Clive Price. And Kim Meredith is a negotiation guru, expert. She calls herself the deal diva. And Clive Price knows a hell of a lot about sales. And it was just so exciting when they started disagreeing and in the most polite kind of way.
It was very civil.
Very civil, saying, I don't agree with you, and this is why. But it was, interesting that it came out
what
that
were,
everything
what were some of the things they didn't agree on?
Oh, you asked me to remember now, and I can't remember that detail.
You can watch episode 50 if you
watch
go
episode
to
50.
ltp.letstalknetwork.tv.
I consider myself chastised.
It's not chastising, it's a bit of punting there in the end as well.
But I think the main point is awesome. So is everything negotiable? And Kim was saying just about, and Clive didn't believe so.
But I mean, it's on if that's Kim's sort of attitude, how does she react when people bargain with her?
She bargains back. So she's got this philosophy, if then. So if I do this for you, then you have to do something for me.
It's pure barter system,
every
basically.
Single, if you go to her with anything you say, she's fine. I'll do that if you do that for me. So she always will have something that she will come back.
Effectively, there's a tangible value on what you're asking her to do, and then she sees that what she's asking you is of the equivalent value.
Fair enough. But then why do some people, like me, always kind of end up at the short end of that bargain? You know, some people say they'll do something for me if I do something for them. I do something for them, and they somehow never live up to the other side of.
Oh, you have to hold them accountable.
So clearly, it's just
that's where she's very good.
The devil is in the deal. She's like the nitty gritty. You got to close it. You got to follow through.
What she didn't tell us on the show, but only afterwards, is that she's got 3 thugs who travel with her.
She doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
Debt collectors.
And luckily, she's not listening.
We think.
Yeah. I've got Mali who's on chat, and he's actually just, for those of you on there, has also given two of his key learnings from 2012. And one saw him lose a business partner that helped him start Gang, which I'm quite proud to be a mentor with next year. It's guiding Africa's next generation.
Mm-hmm.
But since that
That's
partner's
great.
left, they've gone from strength to strength. So I think the strength and courage to leave their partner and to move on,
Yeah.
knowing that the good of this
Mm.
particular organization
Mhm.
will stand and last. And thank you for sharing that. That's really admirable.
And I think that's often the toughest step. Is just
Mm.
making that first step away from a partnership
Yeah.
or anything like that, and then having the faith that everything will be okay
Yeah.
moving forwards.
It's
But
not an
the
easy
biggest
decision, eh?
but the biggest courage is to take that step.
Yeah. So something
It is.
that Marley has also written up here is to sum up: a good partner can see you do well, but an excellent team and support base will see one reach unimaginable heights. And it's pretty inspiring stuff.
Mm.
Deep. No, I'm looking on a personal note. I'm looking forward to being part of this organization next year.
Yeah.
So, and actually, as it is, we've booked confirmed him for the 11th of March. So you can also tune in then to find out more.
Cool.
There's a lot of punting going on the show tonight.
Who have we booked for the 11th of March?
Marley Matiba from Gang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eric, we've done a couple of shows as well. It just seems like I'm the local prostitute here. Support act.
It's a family support. It is a family show, Jonah.
A family show, yeah. Sorry. Michael
Off
Tellinger.
to Thailand.
No, not off. Tell us about...
Tellinger, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that was... Talana came to us with the idea of having Michael on the show, a guy who almost single-handedly is taking on, sort of the biggest banks in South Africa and in the world and challenging them to provide answers to the way they do business. And why I really enjoyed that show is it's something that is just so far removed from my normal patterns of thinking. I add 2 and 2, I get 5. I'm not a detail person at all. I'm not a numbers person at all. But sitting for literally hours reading through all Michael's material and the court cases and the stuff, it was just so exciting to actually be able to have a chat with someone who kind of has such a knack for detail and manages to create such perspective by looking at something everybody takes for granted from a completely different angle. I mean, if we can have guests back, which of course we can.
No, we definitely want
Don't
to.
you want him back?
I definitely want Michael back next
Yeah,
year
and
because there have been some interesting
Great
developments as
updates.
well.
Developments, because just to give you an update, then from that court case went all the way to Supreme Court. We was taking our banks and our financial
Institutions, yeah.
well, anyway, to court, got all the way to constitutional court, got thrown out of constitutional court apparently for some paperwork issues, and he's in the process again of he's restarted the case again, and there's another organization, New Era, that's also right now in the same process. Their court cases should be happening actually at this point in time.
Who's he getting his funding with through, just out of interest, at his own personal...
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is...
Sure.
But he's
self-sacrifice.
but it's not just that. He also has the self-belief and the guts, not to to name it anything else, to actually fight his
take
case
on a
himself.
system.
Yeah.
He's got some legal eagle buddies who kind of advise him, but he's doing the majority of work himself.
Yeah.
And to hear him talk about how here he is representing himself as a complete layman, and Standard Bank are saying, well, this isn't a big deal, yet Standard Bank are throwing
Millions at it.
well the
Well,
millions,
they're
but the
top
top
lawyers in the
legal
country.
brains in the
So they're
country.
scared.
Standard Bank's getting into their corner. So how can there be nothing behind it if
Yeah.
that's how the corporate reacts?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that was one of our most popular shows as well.
It's got a lot of views on
Yeah.
on YouTube
Mm.
that we
I
can
must
see.
say, one of my favorite shows was the interview, I think, Talana, was
You
it
inter-
Mo, with Alan Ray's.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, it was.
Was it the two of
Yes,
you?
it
Yeah,
was.
that was. I
Couple
mean, I
weeks
got
ago.
onto the streaming. I was working late, and I had it in the background. And eventually, I stopped working, and I started focusing on what he was saying. Just loved his ideas on entrepreneurship. Very simple. Just kind of get up and do it. And I mean, a lot of people, I don't know, just it spoke to me. And I know I asked a few questions on the chat, and I've written them down in my diary, so I reflect on them often. And it's Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And
That's
of
episode
the show,
51.
yeah, the shows that you've hosted,
One that
John?
I've hosted, absolutely the Pink Scarves one. No, not
Stories.
because
The
I was
yarn
wearing
bombing.
pink. The yarn bombing. No, it's a phenomenal social cause. Here, Stacey goes into Soweto and other sort of not like well visited places historically by many people. It's kind of been left on its own to grow itself, and you've got women who are at the hand of abuse daily, physical, verbal, and or even worse. And she's got a number of young girls together to tell their stories through just knitting and to
To
develop.
making scarves.
They're making scarves. They're developing a nice social circle. It's in a comfortable and a warm, inviting
Yeah.
environment. They can develop their own confidence, and then it gives them an opportunity to connect with girls outside of Africa or no, yeah, outside of South Africa. So these scarves are being taken to say a similar group in Namibia or Botswana, and
Ghana.
they've got similar stories. And here you've got a girl in Soweto thinking that I've got nothing in common.
She's all
with,
alone. And
or she's all alone.
Yeah.
And here we got a number of other girls who've got similar problems, and suddenly a conversation started.
So,
I think that's awesome.
and it's affecting or changing mindsets around xenophobia, because now those girls are realizing that their issues are very similar to girls in another country. So now they can relate instead of being fearful of or
And
threatened by other
it's again, it's about the stereotypes. And I mean, with regards to stereotypes, I had a really, really good laugh after one of the episodes I hosted with Claire Reid on the real gardening. Again, it's amazing how you read up on someone, you prepare for a show, and you have in your mind, you create this picture of what this person should look like and what they should do. And,
Dirty
you know,
nails.
so I did all the research on Claire for the show, and I was expecting a weather-beaten old duck.
Hang on, let's just check if she's on the chat. Did I put my disclaimer?
Who's been
earlier
gardening
on?
for 50 years, and you know, and Claire arrives, and she's 20-something, well-groomed, good-looking, you know, and
bubbly, bouncy. Yeah,
not at
wonderful.
all the kind of sort of stereotypical association I would make with the gardening person.
And sharp though.
Yeah, sharp is.
Just got an email
Sharp
from
as a pair of
Stacey
gardening
saying
shears.
she's listening in. Wow, she's very honoured. So thank you very much as well, Stacey. It was great to have you on the show.
And yarn, and for me, what I also telling him, so she does her story scarf, Stacey, but the yarn bombing.
The yarn bombing is very cool.
And they're planning a big yarn bomb.
They've
thing
got a 1 million
next-
rising campaign. I know Stacey's going to be
for
doing a
Mandela
lot
Day,
more
yeah.
around Mandela Day, but also I think coming up to February as well. There's something planned
Yeah,
for
something
February and then
February.
Mandela
So
Day
we'll
as well.
Watch our blog and Facebook page.
Yeah,
too,
so keep an
to
eye on
find
that. So then part of also looking at this year was to find out what some of our key learnings were.
Yeah.
So Tlana, I'm going to start with you, and you've said you've learned a lot about technology. Tell us
Sure.
tell us more about that.
So I mean, I wanted to do this show. When I started, it was more just to learn about how to express myself and get a point across in a short space of time. But doing that, I've also had to learn, obviously, about the technology, how to actually mix the show, how do we record it, how do we upload it, how do we get distributed. And then we've had some fun and games with me crawling under the table, trying to find where the wires go because they can't get one camera to work.
It's just one small plug.
And yeah, with the plug last week with the microphone. So it's been years. I really appreciate that, and I think we have a big thank you to Tim, who runs the Let's Talk Network,
Yeah.
for actually providing
yeah.
the studio and then the
That's for
training.
sure.
Well, we had
Because
we
he's
must,
trained Bangizi, myself, and Pabalo
yeah.
in how to mix the show and
We
hopefully
mustn't
we're
forget
going to
Remove
get
Studios as well.
Remove Studios this
How can
year.
we forget that?
Yeah, but-
I unfortunately missed the move. Thanks for those who got involved.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, thanks to
apparently, all
those.
great radio stations are moving studios this year.
Yeah, Balls
'cause-
Radio started
yeah.
this year, and they're in a very similar environment.
Yeah.
Who knows? LTP FM could be on the cards. Mo, I saw that one of your your learnings was when in doubt, call Tim.
Yeah, when in doubt, call Tim. Like, that has become our Monday evening mantra. Okay,
Yeah.
like, should
Tim is-
anything not work back there where the mixing happens, yeah, we just call up Tim. But as we call Tim, we reboot just in case. As we dial Tim, yeah. So Tim has been massively helpful
That's Tim
throughout
Hart.
Yeah.
So big thank you to Tim.
A big thank
Big up.
you.
Eric, I see you've got some 2 interesting points there. Possibilities found in the strangest places.
Yeah.
Tell us your experience there.
Well, I think everybody tends to focus on areas of their life that they're familiar with, so I think each of our shows have kind of garnered a particular theme throughout without any kind of forethought around it. And what I've really enjoyed is when my Mondays have kind of gotten an outdoorsy adventure kind of feel, and every now and then someone says, well, and I mean the Claire one's a good example. Michael said, Eric, well, why didn't we get Claire on? Why didn't we get Michael on? Things that I know nothing about, that's completely out of my sort of comfort zone. And getting to know those people and getting them to also understand that, what possibility you find in the strangest places. And most of them are actually right under your nose and pretty close to home. It's to me, if you want to put it in a picture, we all have this comfort zone around us. And unfortunately, it's way outside of that comfort zone where there's a space where magic happens. And the only way to get to that space where magic happens is to just keep stepping over the boundary of what's comfortable for you. And that's been sort of the most interesting part for me this year.
And we know you step over that boundary. In fact, you cycle over it
Yeah,
at a high speed.
I tend to fly into things, yeah.
And then I think I want to go cycling with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well,
But
we'll see.
there's-
I may
But
not
there's
make
a
it to the
chicken run
farm.
on everything, so
Yeah.
which I'll take, and you go.
Chris, I like one of the points you mentioned here. You spoke about or talked of naked leadership and being transparent. Tell us more about that as a learning.
I just think for me it's a case of we've always been so careful about what we expose to the world, and I really enjoyed the talk on the fact that social media is forcing us to be more transparent in life, and
It's
I
with
guess-
Doug Vining.
that's right, Doug Vining, yeah. And
What show number was that?
was
Lana?
that?
I'll get it.
You mean you don't know?
Yeah, come on, Delano.
But I mean, that's interesting because
31.
Yeah.
31. Episode 31.
Boom.
episode 31. I don't know if social media is really forcing us to be more transparent. I think it's just giving people an opportunity to share, for whatever strange reason, share stuff with people they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in the show, what Doug was saying is that if we're not transparent, it's going to come out in one guise or another. And so, on a level, it is forcing us to be more transparent, and that we need
Okay.
to stop.
So it's kind of
hiding stuff.
it's kind of creating a mindset that says if I don't put it out there first, someone else is going to put
absolutely.
it out there.
And so if we're transparent on let's call it social media for the moment, but and then that transpires into being transparent in our relationships with the people that we love,
In our
or our
work.
friends, or our colleagues. It just opens the possibility of so much of the
being raw.
rubbish that we get caught up in being taken away. And I'm so tired of people with agendas.
Yeah.
Why can't we have real conversations?
Being more authentic.
Absolutely, authenticity
Yeah.
and integrity, of course. So
But
yeah,
isn't it also arguable that on social media we are not authentic in
Sure.
most instances? In most instances, we put up this wall between us and the world,
Social media wall.
yet we engage and interact a lot with the world to further fuel this wall or this facade that we're
Yeah.
creating.
And what
Yeah.
was that story on the show that I did with you where it meant to be the lesbian in that country was turned out to be the Scottish man
Yes,
in
yes. The gay
Girl, yes,
girl
gay
in
in
This
Damascus.
is getting even more interesting now.
No, but
Sure.
there's the whole blog was written, and everyone thought it was this gay girl in
Damascus.
Damascus, and
And there was an Irish
And
dude in the UK.
the media were quoting her because she was talking about what was happening, and when they actually did research, they found it was this guy in Scotland pretending to be her, and just making up.
And the media would
Commentary.
It could very well be that Scotsman from that movie with Hugh Grant. Oh no, he was Welsh.
he as well. But Mo, you talk about how we create a persona and whether authenticity is happening or not.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about if we talk about what the possibility is about, and the possibility of that of having
being
that
authentic.
transparency in
Yeah.
our lives, and maybe if most of us that are not the kind of the leaders in our communities that are now under a higher degree of scrutiny, and so we can get away with having that facade. But the more scrutiny, the more likely it is that people are going to see through that facade. And so
It happens at government level, not just in South
Yeah.
Africa. No, it absolutely does. Where the media perhaps overextend themselves, but they find out more than they probably should have. Yeah, the flip side is that the media get too involved, and you get that Murdoch horrendous, debacle where they're tapping into phones and
yeah.
So I don't know, it's a fine line as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be even more interesting in South Africa next year when, it seems that
With the secrecy bill.
the secrecy bill is all but
Yeah.
through. And
Still a lot
that's
of
going to
opposition
curb
to that.
media.
And there should be.
Yeah,
No,
no,
absolutely.
absolutely.
But just on that note around authenticity, and I read a very interesting book a couple of years ago, and I can't remember who wrote it because I left it on a plane and never finished it. It's called Multiplicity, and essentially it's about how everybody has multiple, not personalities, because it doesn't become a mental health issue, but we all have these multiple personas.
Yeah.
And so for me, what's been great this year is, I've got my corporate consulting, Eric, and my
What was that about
photography.
hunting? I think Eric Vermeulen, wasn't it?
What's your website?
And it's Eric with a K, by the way.
With a K.
And
Actually, I was on the
Mo,
website.
you're
It's
next. Have
actually
you
really
got your
good.
details ready?
No.
what was I saying?
But the book
Multiplicity.
Multiplicity, and how, and I think what the show is for all of us is it gives us just that other edge in that allows us to explore other people's worlds.
Avenues,
Either other
Um,
people's worlds, but also different aspects of yourself,
Yeah.
which I find quite exciting. This brings out a different.
Got you knitting this year.
Got me
Hey.
It's got me knitting
enter
this
the
year.
pink hat.
The pink hat.
hat.
But also, through one of your particular guests who I came on board with, it was Alex Harris,
Yeah.
the guy who'd done the 7 summits.
Walk to the South Pole.
This man knows no physical condition that is scary for him. He doesn't feel temperature that drops me
So I'm going to get you mountain biking with him
the
next
very
year.
depths. I'm already scared. but for me, that was very exciting.
And for me, he was one a really, really real conversation
Yeah.
because he spoke about death. He lost
Also very frank.
a number of people in his round the world flights.
Ricky de Agrela.
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
about, we're talking about someone else.
We were talking about
What,
Alex.
Harris?
Alex.
But yeah,
I get them mixed up.
Alex encountered death on one of his very first mountaineering expeditions when he was in his early 20s. You come across guys who you saw at base camp 2 days ago, and now you step over his body.
Sure.
And then that show with Ricky was awesome as well.
Yeah, for me it was just so real and so raw to talk about the emotions around dealing with death.
Well,
Touch me.
it's almost 8 o'clock and the show has flown, but we're now looking ahead at 2013. We've had a little taste of, the wrap-up of what our favourite parts of 2012 were. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. Your just a couple of goals you're looking at to 2013, personal, with the show as well.
I think from a show perspective, I'm wanting to do a lot of work in the sort of business space next year with helping people to grow in their personal space. And so I'm hoping to chat to quite a number of professors from either WITS or GIBS or UJ or Tukkies or one of the other institutions, and just hear their views on what some of the latest thinking is with regard to business strategy, to marketing, to policy, to whatever the case may be, and then what the possibility is for growth in an environment that a lot of people are finding very tough. So yeah, I guess just to pick some really smart people's minds.
Might be quite nice to get guys who are in the business world versus the theory.
Well, this is
Because often they bump heads.
yeah. I mean, Eric, you were saying this lady Jennifer Wright, is that correct?
Francis Wright.
Francis Wright,
Yeah.
who says that strategy is, I think you has
Worthless.
no role or
Yeah.
has a minimal role
Strategy has no role.
Yeah.
as compared to people that would be strategy professors. And how that translates into our day-to-day lives and ultimately being successful in the businesses that we run or the roles that we play. So yeah, that's where I'm wanting to focus next year and to go and explore in a lot more detail.
Cool.
So quite exciting. I'm really
Yeah,
looking
very.
forward to it.
And your first show for next year is on what date?
I think
I had a look on this calendar. We've got
24th Feb. Can see my
25th, 25th of Feb.
25th Feb.
That's exciting. I mean, we've got this wonderful Google Calendar that Talana's made, so it certainly keeps our lives in check, which is great. Speaking of which, Talana, goals for next
Speaking
year
of which.
regarding the show?
Well, there's a lot of background stuff that I want to do, but I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'm quite interested in getting some of the thought leaders in consciousness evolution on the show. So there's like people like the Dr. Bruce Lipton, Jeff Brown, some people who are really pushing the boundaries in how they think human nature is actually evolving. So I'm really excited to speak to them about.
Okay, and your first show, you're one of the early shows right up front, I believe.
Yeah, so I'll be mixing on the first show of next year, but then the next show,
28th of Jan.
if we're going to see if we can get Jeff Brown on. But yeah.
And the man who has the first show for 2013, the honour. Mo, your goals for next year regarding the
My
show?
goal for now is to do this.
Hold it.
Well, you are now the proud. You are now the proud owner of yet another bottle opener.
I don't know if he deserves that. He didn't.
So yeah, I mean, one of the major goals for me, in fact, it was one of my goals this year as well, to get more of my favorite authors onto the show. Stephen Pressfield, if you're listening, I want to get you on next year. And the authors of Rework as well. So get more authors, do more of the silly season has started, just by the way. Do more of the current affairs type shows as well. I mean, the Spear of the Nation address was interesting this year.
Yeah, sorry, it was one of the things you mentioned.
So do more of that.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Eric?
Well, I
got a
think
couple
I'm
here?
going to continue on my sort of track of getting outdoors and adventurous, and again, just trying to see what guys who have no fear can teach us mere mortals. So I think one of the things I want to do is I want to get a world champion on the show next year. I'm not going to be particularly fussy about which sport, as long as it's an outdoor one. I mean, no one wants to hear about the world darts champion, I think.
No way, full the power, Taylor.
Yeah.
Come on. Even I know him. He's a hero, man.
And that was not rehearsed. So
So somebody you might want to consider there would be Philippa Johnson, who a number of years ago was in a car accident and was actually pronounced dead on a number of occasions from what I can remember, and the hospital actually pulled her out. And she had always had a dream to ride horses in the Olympics, and a number of years later won double gold at the Paralympics. And her
Okay.
story is just one, I find it just so incredibly inspiring, and so that could be somebody that we could look
That
at
could be
through,
fun,
through
yeah.
Skype.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think we have enough Mondays
No.
for all the shows that we
How many are
actually
there next year? 52?
as they were this year, yeah. So,
This year was a leap year. Maybe we had an extra one.
but we are missing a couple on
Yeah,
holidays,
for holidays.
and that sort of thing. So I
We
think
need a
probably down
break,
to about
yeah.
48.
Fair enough.
And
Then
you,
Pabala, before we get to me, Pabala, our producer, had put down a couple of goals. I like the first one, get a driver's license. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Are you riding it tomorrow?
Starting
We're
the
applying
process.
for the process
Oh,
tomorrow.
good luck.
Yeah.
And then
It is-
gain more experience and a little bit of everything. Oh, I think everyone needs that.
Yeah.
Yeah. From my side, look, I think I need to be a little bit more prepared for the shows, if I have to be really honest.
Oh, me and you.
You
Jonathan.
Looking forward to that. What do you think? I can do impromptu particularly well. Listen, calling the kettle black.
Keep the bottle open, okay?
But for good news for Talana in particular and her mental state is I have been through a time management course through work, and it's actually been awesome. And that's really got me onto a different level of productivity, which I'm quite excited
Awesome.
about.
That time management, is that the same guy who did the magic memory course?
Shit, I don't know. Are you doing that on
You can't
purpose?
remember his name?
I so fell into that one. And then something I didn't get to do enough of this year. I want to start interviewing people who are having an impact within the student community, so 18 to 24 space particularly. Guys who are young, up and coming, doing it for themselves on the one side, but are also proving your typical student. You don't have to just go to university, get a degree, and then find a job. What are they doing that's different? How are they making the strides?
Because I mean, I was
how
read-
can they move
yeah.
themselves forward?
Yeah. I mean, I was reading today somewhere that, I mean, 60 odd % of students who enter varsity never graduate.
Look, that's true. I mean, a lot of them
And yet
become a burden
everyone's
on the
bitching
system.
and moaning because
Look, the ones that do graduate also, there's a huge backlog of students just waiting to get jobs. Some of them are not qualified enough. The ones that are there's only a small pool of jobs available. But and then who's doing it for themselves? So that's quite exciting, and I think it's a space that can be explored and certainly taken further.
Well,
Yeah.
and considering our Angie 13% Macheka, at this point, the space that you're in at the moment is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to work with these guys that have made it to university and to really help them to get through this space.
And there's some good stories
So,
out there,
Yeah.
and they need to be told.
Yeah.
Okay, so ways to get hold of you guys, other than your profiles on
Yeah.
LTP. Let's talk. No jokes.
www.infinitylearning.co.za.
That's for Chris. InfinityLearning.co.za. Talana
You can tweet me at Talana, Telana.
at Talana.
yeah,
Eric.
well, you can tweet me at Eric with a K, no C, M Vermeulen, or my website, ericvermeulen.com.
Mongezi.
At Mongezi on Twitter, mongezimtati.co.za.
Fantastic.
And Jonathan, do you want people to get hold of you?
At Jono_Dix. And that's simple as it is. Yeah. So
Alright.
I think looking ahead to 2013, our first show is at Mongezi. It's Monday, the 21st of January. He'll be hosting and talking about the possibilities regarding self-managed communities. So looking
Yes,
forward
that's
to
going
that.
to be interesting.
Can you just pronounce the guest, the lady guest? Solana.
Kakaza Mtembo. Yeah, so they started a community called Word and Sound, which is a poetry and sort of live music community, where the community now contributes a lot of the information, a lot of the things that have to happen in the shows, and they vote for who they want to perform at some of the shows, and they pack out one of the most well-known venues in Joburg, so that should be quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very
Great.
interesting for our team as well, since we try to self-manage the show and we're running 7 minutes over.
Yeah, look, it's fine. We can make one exception, or maybe the odd exception. But certainly for those of you wanting to get all of the shows from this year, you can hit to our blog, ltp.letstalknetwork.tv, and there you can find a full listing of all the shows, and some of them we've already discussed, certainly the highlights, but there are a number of other shows that you can get to.
How many
keep-
shows? 58.
No, there's
58 full shows.
58 full
and
shows.
And then,
Yep.
of course, we've got
The
the
short
And we've got the
ones.
shorter
That's
versions
right,
as well.
Shorter version as well.
So,
It's
you know,
almost
as
at
Talana
50.
says, and I love this, let's keep the conversation going. It doesn't have to be a break just because it's holidays. If you have any tips or even topics that you want discussed, engage with us.
Sure.
Find us on Facebook, Let's Talk Possibility, or on Twitter at LT Possibility. Thanks for the show, guys.
It's a pleasure. Have an awesome break and look after yourselves
See you in
and those around you.
2013.
Yeah.
Drive safe, no drink driving.
Yeah, safe through the festive season.
All right.
And Jonathan, look after yourself in Thailand.
I shall. Thank you.